Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to close out your paycheck budget to ensure that you have no errors in your budgets whatsoever going into your next paycheck to paycheck budget. Hey y'all, so before I get this video started, let me give a quick shout out. These were the first 3 comments in my last video. If you want to be featured in my next video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and come show me some love when I drop a new video. What's up you guys, it's KeAmber Vaughn aka Coach He coming back to you with another video. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and if you're not new, welcome back. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and also tap the bell so that you are notified of every new video that I post. So as you guys can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to close out each and every one of your paycheck to paycheck budgets in the most perfect way with no errors to ensure that your next paycheck to paycheck budget is as accurate as possible. Now, doing this is important for 2 reasons. Number 1, you are able to detect fraud a lot quicker on your accounts. Fraud and identity theft is at an all-time high, so you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself. Back in the day, most people who would hack your bank account would immediately try to drain everything out of your account, but some hackers are starting to get a lot smarter and noticing that people are not paying attention to their checking accounts or their accounts period on a micro level, so they take a little bit of money at a time. So this will help you to detect any fraud very quickly because you are paying attention to your income and your expenses on a micro level. The second reason why it's important is because you want to know exactly how much money you have to play around with. You want to know how much money you have available for your fixed expenses, variable expenses, any savings, any extra debt payments, so that you can ensure that you avoid any overdraft fees. Overdraft fees are, man, they take a lot of money out of some people because they are not paying attention to what's going in and coming out of their accounts. So of course you're going to need a separate sheet of paper to do this part, and there are going to be 7 things that you have to take into account when you are doing this process. Now I'm actually going to show you guys what I did to make sure that my numbers worked at the end of paycheck 1 for January 2020, and I'm going to link up in the eye in the sky the actual video and what you guys saw. So there are going to be 7 things that you're going to take into account. The first thing is, what was your beginning balance of your checking account when you first started this particular paycheck to paycheck cycle? Number 2 is your income. Number 3 is your fixed expenses. Number 4 is your actual variable expense amount that you spent for that amount of time before your next paycheck. Number 5, how much money did you send to savings? Number 6, did you send any extra debt payments off? And then number 7, you also have to worry about if you have any outstanding transactions or pending transactions that are not yet showing in your account. So let's go ahead and get this started. So remember, the first thing was the checking account balance, and my checking account balance was $4,000. If you guys did not know, I always start my checking account balance there at the beginning of every single paycheck for the month. So going into the next paycheck, paycheck 2, this is not going to be my starting balance. It's only when I start the beginning of a budget for that particular month. Now, what my bank balance was when I started to do the reconciliation process was $49.41.85. Now you are going to do this process the night before you get paid. So when I originally did this and I recorded it, I'm actually re-recording it. I did it at 6 o'clock at night. If I knew I was going to buy some takeout or I needed to make another Walmart run or something, I would not do this process until I did all my transactions before my new paycheck comes in at midnight. Well, it comes in at midnight for me. So this was my bank balance. Now, some of you who are watching this video, you probably use your credit cards as well. I do know I've had a lot of people reaching out to me saying that they're starting to do what I do, which is using my credit card for everyday expenses, whether it's because of rewards, points, cash back, whatever. So my credit card balance at the end of this cycle was $504.29. So you would think that this is the variable expense amount, and this is what I need to pay as far as a credit card statement, because I pay my credit card bill at the end of every paycheck to paycheck budget. But that's not the case here, because $159 of this was a Southwest flight, and that's going to come out of my travel sinking fund. And remember, we are reconciling or closing out our budget in regards to our debit card account or our checking balance. So because this is not going to be paid out of that, we need to subtract. So 504.29 add minus the 159 is going to give me 345.29 as my variable expense amount for the week. So now we need to go into our expense tracker and see if those numbers add up. So these are all the expenses that I have for this particular paycheck to paycheck cycle, which was 2 weeks. It's not a lot of expenses. I don't spend a lot of money. So as you guys can see here, what I spent was $275.44. So as you guys can see, these two numbers do not work out whatsoever, and here is why. So if we go back to the expense tracker, you guys see this particular line item right here. Well, I was charged $139.88 on my credit card. Me and a couple of my cousins and my sister decided to go on a bowling outing, and because of the way that we were paying for the lanes, or the way that we chose how to do the lanes, they were not able to split up the payment into, I think it was 8 of us. So I decided to go ahead and charge it to my card, and then everybody reimbursed me for their particular portion in either cash or Cash App payments. And so the total amount in cash and Cash App payments was $122.25. And so that is why on my expense tracker you only see $17.63, because that was my particular portion. The reason why I do this is because if I was to put the $139.88, that means that I have to take that out of my total amount that I budgeted for miscellaneous, and that's not what I actually spent considering all the reimbursements. So out of this variable expense amount that is showing on my credit card, we're going to take away the $122.25 because that was a payment that I made after I got all the cash and Cash Apps reimbursements. So if we take that away, that means what we have left is $223.04. As you guys can see, variable expense for the credit card, these two numbers still do not match. So a lot of times what I like to do when numbers don't match is I like to kind of subtract them from each other so I can see, like, okay, so what do I have to make up for? So at this point I have $52.40 that's missing from my credit card statement that's actually in my expense tracker. Well, let's go back. So one of the things that I like about this expense tracker that I use is that I always check off whether something's debit, cash, or credit. So as you guys can see down here, I have 2 transactions here that show on my debit card that are not, of course, on my credit card. So what happened here was I went grocery shopping. My mom was with me. I forgot my debit card at home, so she paid for it, and then I Cash Apped her as soon as we got home because I don't like going to the bank to go get cash, especially not petty cash. So if we take these 2 transactions and we add them together, you guys can see that that gives me the $52.40 that I'm missing. So this is my actual expense amount, not this, but this is actually what ended up being my second credit card payment, but I had not made that yet when I reconciled the budget. Okay, so now that we know that the variable expense amount, everything works out, we've already taken care of the fixed expenses. I'm going to show you guys that. We did the savings. I don't have any debt, so now we have to worry about pending transactions. So when you get to where everything that's in your bank account lines up with what's on your expense tracker, you're good. The numbers work out. It's time to move on. So now we're going to go back to the bank balance here. So remember, my starting balance was $49.41.85. And I'm actually going to go to that particular paycheck to paycheck budget. And that was this one. So we started off with the income, or the starting balance. Now let's go into the income. And actually, that was not my starting balance. 4,000 is. Sorry. So we're going to add the 1166.38 That's going to give me $51.66.38. Now, if I subtract my fixed expenses, because remember we start with the starting balance, we add the income, and then we start subtracting our expenses. The fixed expense that I have for this particular paycheck cycle was $99.99. That actually did come out of my account. And that's all we had. So that's going to leave me with $50.66.39. So now we move on to variable expenses. So I thought I was going to spend $551.66, but what I actually spent, again, remember, was the $275.44. So I just over budgeted, which happens a lot. It's better to overestimate your expenses than underestimate. So if I subtract that from the balance, we have $47.90.95. Now remember, the fifth thing to do is to look at your savings. So I sent off during this paycheck cycle $194.39. So that gives me a balance of $45.96.56. I do not have any debt, so I don't have to worry about that. And then there were no more pending transactions as far as my debit account or my credit card account. So we are good there. So now, if we look up here at what the bank balance actually was before I got paid, this and this does not equal. This is what we are going for. So we're going to do the same thing. Let's go down into here. So because I do everything on my credit card and I have not made any payments yet, this is what I have to take into account when I'm trying to figure out why what I should have is not what I actually have. So remember, we have this payment right here. This payment did not completely go through on the credit card statement when I did this reconciliation. So it didn't go through on a credit card, nor did it go through on my debit card account. So we're going to subtract that out from my balance. So $49.41.85. I'm going to subtract the $122.25, and that's going to get me $48.19.60. Now the other credit card payment that I have is the second credit card payment here that I actually did not make at the time, and I did it after I actually did my numbers. So we're going to subtract the $223.04. That's going to give me $45.96.56. And if you look, these numbers work out. And that's all I do. So once I do this process on the back end, that is when you guys see me come onto YouTube and I actually do like my actual numbers here. I always know that my actual is correct based on when I do the reconciliation and closing things out on the back end before I come onto the YouTube videos. So it's a very simple process. Again, your checking account, what did you start off with when right before you got paid? Your income, fixed expenses, variable expenses, savings, any debt transfers, and then any outstanding balances. You always want to look at what is showing in your bank account as far as expenses go, and you want to compare that to what you have on your expense tracker. There have been times where I'm off by a couple of dollars and then I look and I have a transaction in my bank account that I forgot to write down. So then I can write that down and then the numbers match up. Or let's say there have been a couple of times, not very many, where I'm trying to figure out like, man, why do I have like an extra $50? Well, it was because I forgot to pay my cell phone bill or my portion of the cell phone bill. So things like that happen. That is why you have checks and balances. You always want to make sure that your numbers work out perfect before you move on, because you can, it could be a nightmare when it comes to your budget if you don't practice reconciling your budget, every single paycheck budget that you have. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to leave them down below. Please thumbs up this video, subscribe if you haven't already. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.